So, welcome to LiberalViewer Wednesday Live. This is my weekly live question and answer show where I take questions from my viewers about politics, media, YouTube, whatever. Hopefully, something in my area of expertise where I can get a good discussion going with the live viewers here. I hope you all can see and hear me. Let me see if I got viewers over in my waiting here. Looks like we've got some viewers starting to show up. Let me know if you can see and hear me, because I'm going to start. I usually take the live questions in the discussion section after I do the questions that people have sent me during the week. I have two questions that were just sent to me this afternoon to address before I get to the live questions from those of you who are watching. I see that I have some more people joining us. Welcome to LiberalViewer Wednesday Live. So the first question I got earlier this afternoon came from Terry Alther, who seems to ask me a question almost every week, maybe every week even. It says, should major media outlets like CNN use more investigative journalism in asking the questions that Code Pink and other advocacy organizations use, as Jank argues here? And then he shows a link to a video. And I actually watched that video. It's, what's her name? Medea Benjamin, the head of Code Pink, is interviewed by this Carol Costello, I think is her name, on CNN, about having interrupted the president's speech last Thursday at National Defense University. I showed a clip of that speech in my Liberal Viewer Sunday clip roundup last Sunday, and that was basically the theme of my Sunday clip roundup, was the part of his speech where he called for an end to of the authorization for use of military force after September 11th, 2001. But to get to Terry's question, he's saying, should CNN use more investigative journalism to ask the questions that Code Pink and other advocacy organizations asked the president, like Medea Benjamin did when she interrupted President Obama's speech? And also Terry posted this link to a whole bunch of issues that the media doesn't cover, and then the superficial issues that they do cover. And even though I make this I've made this bias playlist for Fox News bias about the partisan propaganda that Fox News runs, every now and then I have pointed out that I think that all the media has bias towards sensationalism and superficiality. And that's also in the stories that they cover. They cover the stories that they think, have celebrity sizzle, or where they have some sort of video of the story that they think is going to draw viewers. And, it has to do with what they think their viewers are going to keep watching, rather than turning the channel, rather than what news used to be back when the old days, when I used to watch the big CBS, ABC, and NBC networks cover the news before there even was cable, and that's when they thought that they had more of an obligation to be an organ of our democracy, and the Fourth Estate and all that. And so I do think there's a point there. One thing I wish, when the Code Pink, the Medea Benjamin from Code Pink, when she interrupted the president, I wish she had led with the drone strike on Abdul Rahman al-Waqi, if that's how you pronounce his name, the teenage son of the anti-American cleric Anwar al-Awlaki, who that was the one who President Obama used to justify drone strikes. And and I think there is a pretty good justification for killing this American citizen who was actively advocating for basically a terrorist war on America, for on behalf of Al Qaeda. I mean, of all the people, American citizens the United States has killed with drones, that guy is the one who is easiest to justify, and the one who's most difficult to justify is Abdul Rahman, his teenage son. And I wish that Medea Benjamin, who asked about Abdul Rahman like the fourth or fifth time she interrupted President Obama's speech, I wish he'd led with that, because he kind of answered some of her initial questions and didn't really get to those later questions, when I think they may have actually removed her from the speech eventually. I do wish the journalists would ask more questions of the Obama administration like that. I mentioned when a couple live events back, when I had this Jeremy Scahill clip from Real Time with Bill Maher talking about the drone strikes, and specifically talking about the drone strike on Abdul Rahman al-Awlaki. I mentioned there that I wish there was more of Jeremy Scahill on the corporate media, but a lot of those corporate programs are sponsored by the same people who build the drones, like, Lockheed Martin and McDonnell Douglas and those other corporations. I see a lot of them sponsoring those Sunday news shows that I clip on LiberalViewer Sunday Clip Roundup. So I think there is a corporate aspect to why that doesn't happen. And it is kind of sad. But I appreciate the question. I had one more question posted on Twitter. The previous one was on Facebook, and I have a Facebook page, facebook.com/liberalviewer, and I also have a Twitter account, twitter.com/liberalviewer. And the Twitter question I got this afternoon came from David Johnson, asking, any more thoughts on Obama admin naming Fox News reporter Rosen a co-conspirator over alleged leak? I haven't really talked about that very much. I talked more about the AP scandal in terms of the Obama administration going after journalists. James Rosen, coincidentally, James Rosen did the Kurt Vonnegut obituary that sat at the top of my Fox News bias playlist for several years now, where Fox News Fox News obituary trashes Kurt Vonnegut. He's the reporter who did that story, and so it's not like I have a lot of love for James Rosen, but I do think that what the Obama administration did in this search warrant, for those who don't know, James Rosen back in 2010 was covering the Obama administration's position on North Korea, and he was trying to get sources in the Obama administration to leak him classified information about the U.S. policy on North Korea, and to try to figure out who was leaking, who the leaker was in the Obama administration. They got a search warrant signed off by a judge for James Rosen's emails and his phone records to try to go after this government source that he was getting information from. And in the search warrant affidavit, in order to get a search warrant, you have to tell a judge that you have probable cause to believe that a crime has been committed, and that this information is necessary to go after those criminals. And so in the search warrant affidavit, they said that James Rosen was a co-conspirator in the violation of the Espionage Act, leaking this information. And I believe that the First Amendment protects reporters who receive leaked information as part of their job. And I think that even though the language in the Espionage Act is written very broadly, I think that the Supreme Court has signaled and would eventually strike down any attempt to use the Espionage Act to prosecute reporters who receive leaked information, even though the people who leak that information to them can be prosecuted under the Espionage Act. And of course, the Obama administration and Eric Holder didn't actually prosecute James Rosen, the Fox News reporter. They just named him as a possible co-conspirator to justify the search warrant of his phone records and his emails. And I think that is too far, going too far, even for a search warrant to name someone as a possible criminal. I think as a reporter as a possible criminal. The thing I find very ironic about it is back in 2010, someone else who received a bunch of leaked information and put it out there was Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. And Fox News wasn't thinking about the First Amendment back in 2010 when it came to Julian Assange and WikiLeaks disclosing information they got, I guess, allegedly from Bradley Manning, and I think he's even admitted to some of that. And I'm going to be uploading a video about school suspensions later tonight or tomorrow morning, but after that, I think my next video is actually going to be pointing out the hypocrisy of Fox News' position on Julian Assange and WikiLeaks versus how they're reacting now when James Rosen is targeted in the exact same way that they were actually advocating for Julian Assange to be targeted as someone who received leaked information from someone who would then be charged under the Espionage Act. In fact, I have a bonus clip here. This is Megyn Kelly on Bill O'Reilly's show back in 2010 talking about WikiLeaks and Julian Assange and whether the Espionage Act should apply to them.
But I believe we can go after him for espionage. That statute is very broadly drafted. You basically have to gather, transmit, or receive defense information and have reason to believe that that information will be used to hurt America or help foreign countries.
Back in 2010, Fox News did not have any difficulty finding the Espionage Act applying to someone who receives leaked information when it's Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, but now when it turns out that same year the Justice Department targeted James Rosen as someone who received leaked information without considering the First Amendment implications on the Espionage Act, now it's so awful. And that's what I'm looking for before I make that video. I have to find the really good clip from what Fox News is saying now. I think I've seen some from Megyn Kelly. So anyway, those are the questions I had before that people asked me this afternoon before I started the show. But I would like to take some live questions as long as I have some people here. Let's see. I've got people who can see and hear me. That's good. Leaker, liberalism is a mental disorder. That's not very helpful. Ted Filmmaker asks, regarding Terry's comment, I was wondering if you would include non-mainstream sources such as the Young Turks, Alex Jones, Democracy Now!, Rush Limbaugh, etc., along with your Polypop colleagues such as Lee and Steve. Well, I have used clips from all of those. I don't think I've ever used an Alex Jones clip that I can recall, but I've used clips from the Young Turks, Democracy Now!, Rush Limbaugh in videos that I've made in the past. Not that often, not as often as I use the mainstream media, and Fox News, of course, is probably the source that I use the most in my videos. As I've explained before, I make media criticism videos and also political commentary videos. I'd say it's about half and half media criticism and political commentary. And for the media criticism, a lot of the huge percentage of those are criticism of Fox News because there's so much more there to criticize. It's so much easier for me to find something dishonest when I watch Fox News for, just a few minutes. Most of the show, I know where to look, even on their straight news shows. You can watch a Fox News story and then do a fact check on it, and I could make a video every day if I had the time based on Fox News. So I choose those videos where I try to find ones where I can add something, particularly useful, or I have some special insight based on my background and training. And anyway, so that's where I make most of my videos, but I'm always looking for video ideas, and I'm hoping to start making more videos, especially over the summer. There may be some times where I can't make videos, but then there are going to be a few weeks where I should have a lot of extra time. Those are the week. I think my daughter may be going to summer camp for a few weeks, and that will give me a lot of extra time that I usually spend on my stay-at-home dad duties. So I'm definitely open to more video topics and different sources of videos, but usually I'm looking for a topic where I can find good clips, and also where I can add some special insight. Some combination of good clips and special insight is what I look for to make a video. So I hope that answers that question. Let's see. Amstang864 asks, LV, what are your personal views on whistleblowing? What rights should they have or not have? This is a very interesting subject and would love to hear your opinion. Well, whistleblowers who are just whistleblowers, I think, should have lots of protections. They should be protected from retribution. A whistleblower who is exposing bad conduct in the government or a corporation should have legal protection from being retaliated against, if they're doing a public good. The only place where it gets a little difficult is when the whistleblower is also breaking some law, like these leakers, or Bradley Manning, I guess, would be a good example of someone who is both a whistleblower but also has already admitted, at least to some of the lesser charges, that he broke some laws. And I don't think that whistleblower protections should actually protect people from prosecution for breaking laws. But beyond that, whistleblowers should be protected from retaliation from government or from their employers if it's non-governmental whistleblowing. So that, and I think that's really important, because there's a real public good that whistleblowers are serving, and if we want to promote that public good, we need to protect those people. NO8549 says, do you support passage of a reporter shield law? Yes, I do, and that's one good thing that's come out of this whole war on journalism scandal from the Obama administration with AP and now with Fox News, is the Obama administration has reiterated its support of this reporter shield law. It's kind of, some people see it as disingenuous, like stop me before I kill again is what President Obama is saying almost, or before I violate reporters' rights again. And the First Amendment already does give some shield to reporters, but the shield law that President Obama came out in favor of, I think, would be a really good idea. And what it does is it protects reporters from getting put in jail for not revealing their sources, and from prosecution more explicitly, depending on the shield law, for being the recipient of information that is otherwise or that has questionable sources. I talked about this in a recent video about the Mitch McConnell meeting that was taped by some Democratic activists and then leaked to Mother Jones magazine, that showed Mitch McConnell's staff talking about how they were going to really do some nasty things to Ashley Judd if she ran for Senate in Kentucky. And I talked there about how reporters who receive information that may have been illegally obtained have to be protected, because there's an important function that helps democracy that is served by the press finding information of public interest and revealing it to the public, even if that information has questionable sources. A lot of what we find out about bad things going on in the government and in corporations is from whistleblowers, some of whom have to either break the law, like the Espionage Act, or have to break some contractual obligation to their employer in order to give the public this important information. So I think that reporters who receive that information should be protected by a shield law. Oh, Ted Filmmaker follows up, I meant for your Sunday Live clip roundup show. He's saying, can I use these clips from these other sources for Sunday clip roundup? Well, if I see him in time and it's during the week, for the Sunday clip roundup show, I really try to get the most current clips, and it's really been a race. I've been trying to get 10 or 12 clips per show, and I do the show at 6:30 p.m. Pacific, and some weeks, like the last show this week with George Stephanopoulos, doesn't air till 3 or 4 p.m., so it finishes at 4 or 5 p.m., so I only have a couple hours there, and so I'm watching all the shows, and I'm trying to find the clips, and then I have to process them so that I can play them for you, and so it's kind of a race to get that show ready, just in time for it to start at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time on Sundays. But if you want to send me clips or that you think that would be good for that show, especially if they're really current, up just from the last few days, because I try to make that show about real current events. But if you want to send me some, I'm up for using them. It's just watching the 4 main Sunday morning shows, which is Meet the Press, Fox News Sunday, Face the Nation, and This Week with George Stephanopoulos. Just watching those 4 shows and picking clips out from those, and then maybe 1 or 2 extra special clips. That takes up all the time I have for the show on Sunday, mostly. So let's see. Next question here. Phil Brzezinski asks, will the Anti-Monsanto movement gain enough traction in the mainstream media? Well, I don't know. Just here in California, we went through an anti-GMO campaign with the ballot initiative that there was a lot of money put in it from the Monsanto and the pro-GMO people, and it didn't get a lot of traction. I don't think that issue gets a lot of traction from people who don't understand it or see it as kind of a Luddite kind of, like organic food movement type thing. And so I don't know. I'm very skeptical about the anti-Monsanto movement gaining traction in the mainstream media, especially the corporate media, because a lot of those, for a lot of the same reasons I was talking about before in terms of the drones, where the sponsors or the builders of the drones sponsor a lot of those Sunday news shows that I take my clips from, and sponsor a lot of the news programs that they don't do it just out of their largesse and belief in altruism. I think they also get something from it. So Tai Long asks, LV, do you believe that the Muslim man who slaughtered the British soldier in the London streets was justified on some level because of the wars our countries wage in Muslim countries? Michael Moore does. Well, justified, the word justified, no, I'm not going to accept the word justified for what that guy did, hacking. I guess they ran him down with a car and then hacked him up. I talked about this last week when it was just kind of breaking, and I'm sorry if some of my analysis of the domestic politics of Great Britain was not as perspicacious as some of my analysis of American politics. But no, I don't think it's justified, that kind of thing. I think you have to try to understand what motivates people, but understanding what motivates them is not the same thing as saying that those motivations actually justify things like running someone down and hacking him to pieces with a meat cleaver. I'm not sure what Michael Moore actually said, and I don't agree with everything Michael Moore says, obviously, but I don't think that you can justify just that kind of random act of violence against someone who, I did talk last Wednesday, about whether it should be classified as terrorism since the target was a soldier, although the guy was wearing a t-shirt from what I understand. I don't know if it was apparent he was a soldier when he was attacked, but whether it's terrorism or not terror, whether it's a military target or not a military target, running some guy down on the street and hacking him up is not justified and not moral, and so no, I disagree with that. Let's see. Cruz 2 says, could you explain the original intent and purpose of the Second Amendment, especially the well-regulated militia portion of the amendment? Well, I used to argue about that endlessly before the Supreme Court took it up. I talked about this a little bit taking a previous question about the 1939 U.S. Miller case, which I said was very ambiguous, and I got a little feedback from the person whose question I was answering, saying he didn't see it, and I would guess if you think that U.S. Miller wasn't ambiguous about protecting arms that are used for military purposes, go and quote for me what in there is not ambiguous. And if you try to quote it, I think you'll find when you look at what you try to quote, it's going to be ambiguous. Regarding the purpose of the Second Amendment, I think it was a compromise, like a lot of the Constitution and Bill of Rights was a compromise between different factions, the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists. What some of the people who wanted the Second Amendment were really after was they didn't want the United States to have a standing army. And that's one of the reasons, that's one of the things I find most ironic about the people who support the Second Amendment rights but don't support the end to this authorization for use of military force that authorizes basically this endless war. Because the Second Amendment was really meant to limit the power of the federal government to wage war. It was about keeping the power with the armed individuals in the state militias, not having standing armies, and certainly not having some endless war. And if you read the Federalist Papers about why they wanted to do that, they were saying that, well, they won't be able to oppress one state because they're going to be using people, just individuals they're calling up from militias, and those people aren't going to be used to oppress their own states, and they're, since they're sort of citizen soldiers, they can't be used to oppress people in other states, and it'll stop, this oppressive, centralized federal government. That was sort of one of the purposes behind keeping the arms in the state militias. And if you want to see the compromise in the Second Amendment, you look at the first, I think it's 13 words, and the second 14 words. I remember it's like 27 words. The first words are like a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. And that talks about the purpose of the Second Amendment to this well-regulated militia at the state level. And then the second half of the Second Amendment is the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And the people who are really into gun rights only look at that second half, and they don't look at the first half, and they don't look at the history about how it was really keeping the military power at the state militia level to stop the growth of a federal government and to be able to, so the states could protect themselves from the federal government if it came to that. Not so much the individuals, because, the Constitution didn't really protect individual rights against the states at all when it was passed, because the people who passed it thought the state governments, being closer to the people, would be guarantors of individual rights, and they didn't have to, and a lot of states had individual rights protected in their own constitutions, and so they thought that the federal Constitution didn't have to worry about that. And there was this early case, was it Barron versus Baltimore, that said that none of the First Amendment right, again, free speech right, if a state government violates that, the federal courts can't do anything about it because the Bill of Rights didn't apply to state governments, not until the passage of the 14th Amendment after the Civil War. So that's in the 1870s. And so back when the Constitution and the Bill of Rights were first written, the people thought that the state governments were the best guarantors of people's civil liberties, and they wanted to put the arms in the hands of the state governments, and that's why I believe the Second Amendment was really more of a collective right at the state level to make sure that individuals in the state militias had the military power. Let me see. Did you start watching the documentary on the KKK by Vice? No, I've been watching the Vice show on HBO after Real Time with Bill Maher, but I haven't watched anything longer than that. Oh, Amstang 864 asked another question. Did you see the Fox News Bob Dole interview? In your time of following politics, have you seen a drastic change in conservative positions as Bob Dole did? Yes, well, I even played a clip, a very short clip in LiberalViewer Sunday Clip Roundup last Sunday, not of the Bob Dole interview, but of Fox News' introduction of Bob Dole, where they talked about his big accomplishments were I think it was saving Social Security, saving food stamps, and the Americans with Disabilities Act. And do any of those sound Republican to anyone these days? Not really. They're all, even the Americans with Disabilities Act is big government regulation, and food stamps and Social Security? No, I don't think so. So even when Fox News was introducing Bob Dole, they recognized him for doing things that are not mainstream Republican anymore. And of course, in the interview itself, Bob Dole said, the Republican Party should put out a sign till next January saying closed for repairs and look into it. And he said neither he nor Reagan could make it in the Republican Party today. So I think I'm a little over 30 minutes here, so I'm going to look for maybe one or two more questions. Let's see. Exploratory Research asks, is love the strongest element? I do not understand the question. I'm sorry. Zappo147 asks, what do you think about Kim Jong-un releasing an official statement confirming his penis size as 14 centimeters flaccid? I think that was a joke question. That just shows that I am reading questions I'm reading questions that I have not read all the way to the end. Martin Giancopoulos says collective rights, ha. I don't know why that's a ha. There are a lot of collective rights protected by the Constitution, a lot of state rights. If you read the whole Constitution, you'll see a bunch of state rights, and that the founding framers of the Constitution talked about collective rights and states' rights. I just talked about it for quite a long time. Go rewind. Look what I said before. That's not much of an argument. So I guess that is, I'm kind of running out of questions here. But I'm glad I have a bunch of people watching. It seems like the viewership is growing both in the live event and for the people who watch it as a recorded show. So I'm happy to spend a little time on my Wednesday afternoons for a show that 50 people watch live and a couple thousand watch recorded. So I'm going to keep doing this for a little while longer, I think. I'm kind of enjoying it. So thanks for joining me. And thanks for all the great questions. And I'm going to be uploading my next video on should students be suspended from school for willful defiance, or nonviolent willful defiance, I think is the title I came up with. That video should be up live. I'd say it will be more than 6 hours and less than 16 hours. That is but it's definitely going to be up in the next less than 24 hours, definitely. I've already recorded the audio. I just have to edit it together, so that's going to be up soon. And then hopefully I'll be working on this next video about Fox News First Amendment hypocrisy on the James Rosen reporter thing and the Espionage Act. Hopefully I even showed you the bonus clip that I'll be using. I just have to find the current day clip to contrast to that, and that should be my next video. That's not a promise, but hopefully that's what I've been thinking of. So thank you again for joining me. Have a good rest of your week, and see you around on the internet.